Hello, fellow wanderers. I'm Shay, and welcome back to Adventures as a Wanderer, a series where I share places I have explored, stories I have discovered, and memories I have made along the way. Today, I'm taking you to one of the most famous landmarks in Texas, the Alamo. The Alamo is one of those places that almost everyone has heard of. Whether you grew up in Texas or simply learned about it in school, chances are you've heard the phrase, remember the Alamo. But standing here in person is very different from reading about it in a textbook. This is actually a place I try to visit almost every year. Every time I come back, I notice something different. Sometimes it's the history, sometimes it's the architecture, sometimes it's simply the feeling of standing somewhere that has existed for more than 300 years. The story of the Alamo began long before the famous battle that made it known around the world, originally called Mission San Antonio de Valero. The mission was established in the early 1700s. It served as both a religious center and a community where people lived, worked, and worshipped. Like many historic places, the Alamo changed over time. Different groups occupied it, different events shaped it, and eventually it became part of one of the most important moments in Texas history. In 1836, during the Texas Revolution, the Alamo became the site of a battle that would be remembered for generations. A small group of defenders held the mission against a much larger Mexican army led by General Santa Anna. For 13 days they resisted. Although the defenders ultimately lost the battle, their determination became a symbol of sacrifice and perseverance. The phrase, remember the Alamo, would later become a rallying cry for Texans during the remainder of the revolution. But what always surprises me when I visit is how different the Alamo feels in person compared to how I imagined it growing up. When you hear stories about famous battles, it's easy to picture enormous fortresses and sprawling battlefields. The reality feels much more personal. The walls feel closer, the grounds feel smaller, and somehow that makes the history feel even more real. As I walked through the grounds, I found myself thinking about all the people who have stood here over the centuries. Mission residents, soldiers, travelers, families, historians, students, and visitors from all over the world. Each person arrives with their own story, but for a brief moment, all of those stories connect to the history of this place. One of my favorite parts of visiting the Alamo is simply slowing down and taking everything in. The architecture, the gardens, the exhibits, the details carved into the stone, the reminders that this isn't just a monument. It's a place where real people live their lives. As I've gotten older, I found myself looking at the Alamo differently. When I was younger, I focused mostly on the battle. Now, I find myself paying more attention to the people, the choices they made, the challenges they faced, and the courage it must have taken to stand their ground when they knew the odds were against them. History often feels distant when we read about it, but standing in a place where those events actually happened makes it feel much closer. It reminds us that history isn't just a collection of dates and facts. It's a collection of human stories. Stories of hope, stories of struggle, stories of sacrifice, and stories that continue to shape the world we live in today. One of the reasons I continue returning year after year is because every visit offers a new perspective. The Along has become more than just a historic site for me. It's become a reminder that every place has layers of stories waiting to be discovered. Some are famous, some are forgotten, but all of them matter. As my visit came to an end, I took one last look at the mission. The same mission that has stood through centuries of change the same mission that has witnessed triumph, tragedy, growth, and remembrance. And I was reminded once again why so many people continue to visit this place every year, not just because of what happened here, but because of what it represents. Perseverance, memory, and the importance of remembering where we've been as we continue moving forward. Thank you for joining me on today's adventure. I hope you enjoyed hearing about this historic place and learning a little more about its story. If you have suggestions for places you'd like me to wander to next, leave them in the comments below. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, keep on wandering.